Testing. Testing. Let us see really quick. Let me go ahead and double check this audio. I think I'm a little bit quiet. Let's see. But it could also just be my desktop speakers. Let's see. Hello. Oh yeah, see, that's way louder. So why is it so low? I guess I could just set it to 0 and leave it at that. Hi, good evening. I don't think anyone is here yet. Let me go ahead and get myself set up. Yeah, why is that so much louder? Hello. I should be louder than the actual thing. Let me double check one more time on live. You know what? I know how to do this. Let me preview this on Explorer. Hi everyone, hang tight. If anyone is chatting, no one. Who am I kidding? Let us see.
Student producers, Nihar and Maggie. And we have a special guest.
Today we got Joseph Cross, who is art director of the game Marathon.
Hello. I should be louder than the actual thing. I think I'm actually pretty good. Let me double check one more time on live.
Probably talk about that, expand it, and appreciate it, Joseph. This has kind of been a long time coming.
Yeah, happy to be here.
I know how to do this.
Thanks for having me.
Let me preview this on Explorer.
To geek out about art and architecture.
Hi everyone,
We
hang
should say,
tight.
Joseph, we're
If
always
anyone is
really excited.
chatting,
We love
no one.
having any of our guests on. We love talking to architects.
Who
we
am I
love talking
kidding?
to educators, but we've been
Okay,
very
I
excited to
think
talk to
I'm
you
okay
because
actually.
I think we're always very
If
interested
anyone
in
gets
other
any
people's thinkers
repeats
who
of
really
audio, I'm sorry about that.
think the way that we do. So I'm really excited to have this conversation.
Yeah, awesome. To kind of break the ice, I think a lot of people on the internet have been seeing Marathon. At least I have from my algorithms and people I follow, and streamers I follow. And I should just say, like, visually, I'm influenced heavily by
pretty
video
good.
games and movies, and I think a lot of people are. And
Okay, I hope it's
I think
good.
we want to unpack
If it
break
isn't,
the
I hope
ice
someone in
on some of the
chat
content
tells
I'm
me.
seeing online that
Do I have a
revolves
viewer here?
around
Hello.
Marathon itself
Hi.
and the art with
Let's go ahead and get started.
Say
Pretty
easy
much.
they're reusing video games in their own way to produce social content and connect people together.
Let's go ahead and move
So-
this
Would you
away.
say that this is kind of fanfic or fan art? Would
No.
it fall
Hope
under-
whoever
Look at
joins
it,
today
screenshot
is
of the game. So-
interested in what I'm working in.
Sure,
On.
Fan art photography.
Doing some UX UI
There's one
stuff.
for Marathon, and the other one I've placed in
And
here.
I think I have the stream kind of set up
does
okay.
really nice photographic
So you
stuff in
should be able to see my canvas pretty well.
He asks other
And be able to see some of the camera stuff on the side. Go ahead and hide this Illustrator library window.
Looking at the board beforehand.
There you go.
Walk us through it.
And then for anyone that's curious, right now I have in the background
Joseph,
playing right now. It's called World Making, Architecture, and Game Design in Marathon with art director Joseph Cross. And this is from Mixed Signals on YouTube, MXD. It's a pretty good podcast talking about some of the art choices, especially as it relates to architecture in Marathon. So if anyone's interested in that, actually, you know what? Let me drop the link for anyone who wants to give it a listen. Hi, good evening. So, what are we doing today? What am I doing today? I am doing some UX/UI proposals, some user interface changes. I've been playing a lot of Marathon,
I mean, I guess the reason why
and it's really good. I know a lot of people are hating on it right now, but it's actually really fucking good. People are fucking crazy. But just throw that out there. Um,
it's amazing.
but anyways, Marathon has a slight UI issue in which these icons are kind of busy and hard to read. I think by the nature of the design of the game and the way it works, it's a really hard problem to solve. Just because, for example, my focus today is on implants, these body, leg, and head chips, as well as weapon mods. Weapon mod chips. Oh god, why are these borders all over the place? Let me fix that. And then I'm unemployed, so this is me doing it for fun. But I'm hoping one, Bungie does take notice and that they, perhaps implement some of these design choices that I'm working out for them. Where is my? Anyways, yeah. Hoping Bungie takes notice so that they can implement some of the changes that I'm thinking that would make it a little bit easier systematically for players. And I don't know. Maybe they'll decide to hire me. I don't know. It's funny, actually. Have wanted to work at Bungie for a really long time, especially during the Destiny era, Forsaken era, especially was when I was really interested in trying to get into working at Bungie. But I was getting back. I was getting ready to go back to Art Center at the time. And then post graduation, I was just swept up with a bunch of other work, and with the way Destiny was going, I didn't feel like I had a place in terms of trying to solve issues that they might have had. Like, I feel like their systems got a little bit too complex for me to really provide any like good solutions. Okay, I found it. Let me go ahead and adjust this. Why can't?
What people are walking this room, it's kind of white gallery.
Okay, where's my history?
Yeah, cool. Totally cool. It looks like one of those
Player visibility.
And they're just like pranking these
Oh shit! It's the native boys. What's up? How's it going, my guys? Smells not. Lakota, you know what's really funny? So I have one of those humidifier things going in the back. Those essential oil humidifier things. My cousin got me a jar of like eucalyptus oil, and I didn't realize that this bottle, it didn't have like the internal little nozzle. It's literally just like an open lip bottle with the twist off cap. And I didn't know this. And I tipped the mouth over and freaking half of the contents came out. Half of the jar came out. So right now there's a very spicy smelling eucalyptus vapor going on right now. Infamous Lakota, how you guys doing? You guys distracted me. I was trying to move this yellow border thing. Let me fix that. Is it just this one? What is this? Okay, that's for the big border. Fix. Okay, and then this, I need to chop this out. Yeah, there we go. Okay. Anyways, yes, so I am working on implants and weapon mods right now. So here, this was essentially what it looked like pre 1.0.6, or is it 1.6.0? I don't even know. Let me just double check that really quick. I might be totally off with these patch notes. Oh, it's 0.6. Got it. So this is what it looked like before, and then there's a patch that came out last week that made the mods look like this. The problem with these, I even have like all these notes written out and stuff like that. Problem with these is they didn't match aesthetically with the rest of the inventory. Everything is sort of like in a skewed 3/4 angle, except for the consumables. Consumables are flat, but anything equipment-wise is typically, oh, I guess it's either or. It's either flat or skewed. But anyways, I think it looks better skewed, or not necessarily. It's debatable. But anyways, the implants, they changed it too. They changed the leg. So they had a very consistent thing going on where it was like just these cubes with a little graphic that shows if it's for the body or for the leg. And then they changed it to where it's an actual representative icon of a body and a leg. But it looks really nasty, not gonna lie. A lot of people are pretty upset about it, so I'm making some changes. Here's like a little quick draw over and some notes as to what I'm changing. This is the model that I chopped together, photoshopped together. I even made some icons. These don't exist in game. This head does actually. This head exists. I stole this from the album art thing. You knew it smelled spicy. It is quite spicy. But these are all, I was pretty much making like mock-up perks to go within the implants and within the chips. So look at this one. This is one I'm working on currently. I need to make this bigger. I think that's like my primary goal right now as far as like finishing this page. I think that's the only thing I really need to do. So we'll go ahead and do that. Lakota, I feel like it's been a month since I asked you if you were curious about hopping on Marathon. Are you gonna get it? A month later. What about you, Aaron?
Well, yeah.
What about you, Infamous?
I think some.
What have you guys been playing lately?
Like the difficult character. Like I don't know that you have to even.
I have so many freaking
make it.
layers
It's
up in
like
this
some people
bitch.
will choose the particularly difficult
I
or
don't even know what
the
I'm working with.
NPC or whatever.
Okay,
So.
here's the main one that I need. Here's the one with the grid. Okay.
And then,
By the way, the 69 up there, it's not intentional from me. That is actually how much the item costs in game.
I remember us kind of talking offline.
Okay,
Saying they've
let's
never done
see,
this
new
before. They
model
don't do video games. They don't do
with grid. This is the one I wanted to grab. Whoa, whoa, my computer's kind of laggy. Whoa. Okay, maybe I'll close Illustrator for a second. I'll close Illustrator until I actually need it. Ooh, this is so choppy. This is bad. Whoa, I have 5 viewers? No, I don't have two concurrent viewers. That means 5 unique individuals came in and out. Is my audio okay, boys? Girls? If there are any girls in here? I doubt it. Okay, here we go. So just the old model, delete that. Okay, here we go. And in this I need to change to a 2.
graphic design studio like that to do their essentially in-game graphic design iconography was like revelatory. It's like,
Open up
let's
the
not
space on
let's
that.
let's
Maybe.
not assume
Do
we're going
I
to do
need
this
to?
ourselves. Let's hire, you know, the you know the professionals to do
Right.
this. I've sort of defined myself a bit in the industry through caring about stuff like graphic design and Destiny, and developing a lot of the iconography and brand work. So when I had the opportunity to world build, I told myself I was going to at least try to um, do that same thing. Basically, it's like we've got, you know, we have a world filled with brands and sort of companies and iconography. Let's ask my producer, the EP,
Ooh,
can we
this is gonna
afford
be a
this?
really
Is
hard
it
one
cool
too.
is it cool if we do this? Because it's probably not going to be cheap.
Yeah, I'm sure it's
To
expensive.
balance out.
Yeah, this second place I called actually was Kirpahask, this great studio in Sweden, and initially
Okay, I
basically had
think
them
that's
working
okay.
almost like concept artists, like they were doing in-game brands, and like, you know, if a weapon needed a brand, it was that logo, or you know, the faction, like
So
But yeah,
like
if you
New
guys
York,
didn't
stuff
know,
like those companies.
Bungie actually hired
see
Sick. Nope.
an actual graphic design studio to do a lot of their in-game branding,
exactly how
and I think that's pretty sweet.
where they delivered these unbelievable. They treated these brands like
Like
they were
real
working for
brands,
Nike.
yeah.
And that makes sense because when we're in the game, like it feels like I'm looking at real corporate
Yeah.
like advertising or like branding, and a lot of times with games or even like architecture, we try to do too much. We try to do everything.
I
We try
wanted to bring
we
that
try to
up
be like a
too,
graphic
yeah.
designer, and you as the art director, you're like, no, look, they're professionals that know how to deal with this. Even the fact that you tried reaching out to architects like Brian Cantley to say like, well, how can I bring this in and
Yeah.
use the synergy of a team rather than being the kind of center point of bringing all the art direction
Yeah.
as an individual, and that's
Well,
fantastic.
The stakes are so high too financially. It makes sense too. You know, like with these brands, this is a live service game. You rely heavily
What games you pick
on
up?
brand identity. And
I'm just joking, by the
design
way, guys.
cosmetics
Marathon is
for
pretty
years.
tough.
So, you
It's
know,
a pretty tough
having
sell,
these
I think, as a
comprehensive
game.
brand books with, you know, good custom
Ah, this needs to be
iconography,
green.
super
Okay.
well-defined color palettes, material treatments, all this stuff. It goes a long way. I'd say the ROI
Make it that
is
green.
there
Make it a little bit
initially.
darker or more saturated.
Yeah, so to fast forward, also they did
You
end
know,
up
we'll do that.
transitioning basically into sort of a
That's
marketing
fine.
role, and we're involved, say, like in those sort of viral pieces too.
Cool. But to kind of transition to the art of Marathon, I mean, the way I understand it, the way I've kind of played it, it's a extract shooter, meaning you go in and you try to extract stuff out. It's multiplayer. It's kind of it's online in terms of there's random people you can come across, join your team. It's highly cinematic in the story. It's highly cinematic when you're in the game. And the story is really deep. Like actually, a lot of times like, I have to cut through a lot of the side stories. 'Cause I'm like, my God, you guys thought about so much into this, and which is good because you talked about the longevity of a game. And longevity, from my understanding in the game, is both the online community. That's why we talked about streamers and kind of the fandom, and then also like the game itself and how it plays out. And how
Okay,
invested
so
you
I
do
think
into
that
the
looks
game.
pretty good.
And that all is to
Yes.
say that a lot of people spent a lot of time thinking about what the visuals look like, what the gameplay looks like, what the architecture looks like, the feel, the noise. It's a futuristic game. I'm calling it cyberpunk, but you guys describe it as graphic
Wolfpack?
realism.
What are you what are you saying yes to? Hi, Wolfpack.
I mean, it really was a journey. I mean, 6 years.
Oh, 6 years? Holy crap.
So it starts small.
Are you getting? Are you saying you're gonna get Marathon, Wolfpack?
I had a co-conspirator in the concept team.
I've been getting wrecked in it. Guys, I'm totally washed out with PvP too, which is the main reason why I didn't think I was gonna get it to begin with. I even played the server slam, and I got shut up. I got shat on in the server slam. In the tutorial stage, when you're trying to extract, and all you have to fight against is bots, I got shat on by the bots.
We started with sort of assuming this is next gen, so it's got to be next gen detail, fidelity,
But then when the game on the actual release date, I was like, fuck it, I'm gonna just buy it because the vibes are pretty fucking cool in Marathon.
By the way, that term, it mostly
Okay, so this page is done. You know what? Let me. Okay, so this page, I can say it's done, and I can slap on my logo on there.
I think there were a few actually key assets that were designed, like a crate or a box or a piece of scaffolding or a stairway or a staircase. That first image that you had up there, with the sort of green structure,
Right.
yeah, at the top there.
Come on,
That was
Illustrator.
an
Open.
area that that was
Open!
sort of patient zero for the architectural style
My
of
computer's
Marathon.
chugging right now.
These
What
kind
the
of
f...
modular, simple
I don't think
buildings
OBS
that
would
I
take up
thought of,
that much
basically
juice,
kind
would
of
it?
canvases for color and graphic design and value breakup. And we also were really excited about like cantilevered buildings. There's this sort of psychology of like this space is basically an agricultural space, which was exciting to me. I like that idea that it's not it grounded, like the colonists needed to grow food and like understand their environment, and this is a sort of a quasi agricultural space, almost like a farm basically. And so yeah, this was kind of where the sort of architecture really sort of took form, I think. And still one of my favorite spaces in the game.
It's funny you brought up the box thing because so this I wanted to bring up. This is funny because we have a meme online that shows regular cube and then marathon cube, and I think this is where I found.
Oh yes, let me save this picture. Regular cube and marathon cube. This is actually a super good reference. It's a meme, but Joseph Cross, the art director, actually he found a way to own it, which I think is super, super cool. The marathon cube. Let me just save it with that whole tweet. Guys, general gamers freaking piss me the fuck off. When Monster Hunter Wilds came out, it was so annoying to listen to so many people complain about the game. And I feel like the same thing is happening with Marathon right now, where it's like the general noise around it is just so aggravating. Marathon cube. Why is it piss yellow? Can I deworm it? How do I turn? Let me adjustments, color balance. Where the fuck did that layer go? Here we go. I have too many layers here. I just want it to be less yellow. Okay, it's a little less yellow. It's not quite right, but it's fine. It's better than what it was earlier by a little bit. Anyways, keep this here, marathon cube. But while I work on this UI stuff, you guys want to see this? Ooh. I've been cooking up this before I started doing the UI stuff. I need to finish doing the text here on this chest. I might do the text here on this bit of the arm. But everything else is pretty much done with this render. I took the screenshot from in-game, did a very loose trace for the overall shapes, and then I refined all of the line work and the structure. It's actually kind of hard to read the actual shapes of the thing because it's all very bubbly, very amorphous. So it's actually kind of hard to make very strong definitions based on the screenshot. But I did, and I think it looks pretty good. Like, I think it's a pretty good concept drawing that a 3D artist can take and make a model out of. Alright, anyways, back to this. Oh, but you know what? Since we're talking about actual, like, concept arting and drawing, here's also this that I'm working on. Ba-bam! Doing this painting of Thief from the trailer. And then also doing this recon also from the trailer. So I'm hoping maybe like I can do one of these types of posters for each of the characters at some point. The Destroyer concept art I'm doing, it's going to be a lot more expanded. I'm going to try and do a skin design later on, which is one of the reasons why I was doing this drawing so meticulously. And then this is the breakdown of the character silhouettes as to what their defining features are. Destroyer has a bunch of like blocks kind of attached on everywhere. Assassin is pretty much naked, minus his hood. And he's got a lot of like belts, essentially, like a Guilty Gear or Final Fantasy character. And then Thief just has a really cool puff jacket and a little ponytail detail. So those is why those silhouettes are that distinct. They did a really good job, actually, I think, with the character silhouettes. I like this graphic realism slash hard surface industrial design that Marathon went, but I didn't know if it was particularly something practical for a video game. So visually I was kind of unsure, actually. I wasn't totally sold on the actual design, like the actual shapes and all that stuff, as far as how they are composed together. But I think overall art direction for the game is actually really good. Like individually, a lot of things might not be to my individual taste, but I think the entire look of the game is pretty cohesive and striking. Am I just mumbling to myself? Okay, so this page is done. Oh yeah, I meant to put on my logos and shit on this page. So this is my personal logo, and then I also made a new coloric version of my initials, just for fun. Let me just set that there. Make this ultra tiny. Cool. Now copy that to the other page. Oh my god, there's so many layers here. So easy to get lost. You know, maybe that's the reason why it takes so long to do some shit sometimes. Because I just get lost in the sauce. I'm out of boba. I need to get something to drink. Oh shit.
Extremely successful
Got
at
to
the
keep that
Marathon
going.
project, and why I want to dig deep into it, because like clearly there's just like the minimal like plus sign, right?
Yeah.
Just like now people see that plus sign, they might think Marathon. And I think that is true, at least in the gamer space. The kind of the heavy diagonal lines, things that are just familiar with industrialized places, maybe airports, construction sites, and you obviously were looking at that stuff to a certain degree, but you were looking at it through the lens of certain artists, right? We mentioned like Virgil Abloh, and there are some other artists that we talked about. There's Daniel Everett, right? I believe is another one. Maybe just kind of unpack the influences there, like.
Could I make two observations
Go ahead.
graphically as well from someone unfamiliar? Two things that strike me are lighting. It's like very epic lighting, even in some of the low light scenes. Like that's like, I don't know, that strikes me. And the material colors and the material, they all seem very like saturated, even like omissive everywhere. Like there's something in them.
From a lighting cinematic sort of point of view, yeah, we definitely, I mean, that's, making sure that things feel epic and immersive, and, that we have, Bungie had an amazing lighting team and graphics engineers working in that proprietary engine to make that feel as kind of cinematic as possible. We definitely did not intentionally create emissive colors or materials. In fact, would try to do the opposite, trying to embrace a lot of matte materials, and in fact had really a sort of I tried to hold the line at materials are either matte and gloss, period, in the entire game for a long time, and that sort of eventually crept into some sort of shades of gray in between. But yeah, stylized material response and sort of really like leaning into those contrasts was a big part of it.
Oh, computer is stuck.
Oregon Ducks.
How does my computer perform this badly?
One of the best uniforms in college football.
Yeah, it really is.
Uh-oh. Photoshop.
They sort
Photoshop.
of every week you would
Photoshop.
the wings are gloss,
Photoshop
and
is
the helmet
stuck.
is matte, or the face mask is gloss, and like that was a big influence.
I mean, I see it in the game, and we'll probably unpack the references in a second. But what I mean by that
Oh
is,
no.
it goes back to the graphic realism. However, I interpret
Photoshop.
it as a lot of games use their own
Photoshop.
proprietary game engine, but I'll kind of just make it
Brother.
Unreal Engine because I think it's the one most people are familiar with.
I don't think this work I'm doing is that
There's a relative
hardcore.
kind of
Why are you
sense of
bugging
realism
out
that
this
comes
hard?
with it, or like video game realism is what I like to call it.
It's only a
But
few
the
artboards.
flatness that you guys,
There we
kind of
go.
place
Okay. It
with
broke for a
the
second.
kind of the matte colors you
Cancel.
described,
Cancel.
the types of colors, the contrast
Fix
between the
yourself,
objects and
please.
the environment, the sky, and kind of nature is actually pretty beautiful, because what ends up happening is it reinforces the boundary and the edges to kind of show that tension in the narrative of man versus nature, machine versus nature. There's like an image on the board that you have of like construction sites, because those are photographs that you found,
That's
right?
awesome.
But they're absurd.
Those
like that.
are all Daniel Everett.
Yeah, but there's a level of absurdity here that seems not real, right? And I feel like your eye, or maybe your team's eye, kind of zoomed
Oh.
in on this and focused on.
Okay, we're fine.
Clearly there's a contrast between the graphic and the thing that is just familiar on the
Are we?
everyday realism. And I think you guys did a great job with kind of using the render engine as its base, and then forcing in with the texture maps the flatness to reinforce the boundaries.
It's like an unrelenting color saturation. It's in the Brian Cantley stuff and all this, the
Yeah.
references.
It's also like when I look at this stuff, and this is not like hard to find. Also, when you go to Japan, it's everywhere. You can't believe it's not intentional. You can't believe there's no aesthetic consideration for spaces like that, and it's all just functional. And that's what we tried to channel. Like the marathon spaces look so aesthetic. Ideally, we all it's sort of imbued with function in a way that you sort of find yourself asking those same questions. Like, was there like a graphic designer on this construction site, like directing this masking tape?
It's like high art and low art coming together, because it's like highly designed on something that you think is so banal and is so temporary, like a construction site. But to your point of Japan, like like when you go to the streets of Japan, the markings on the ground are just beautiful on the walls. Even like
Everything's
New York,
hyper-aesthetic.
but even New York City, like when the first time I went to New York City as an adult, I'll say I remember seeing the New York City logo. Like the city has a logo that's on everything, on taxis, on government buildings. I'm like, wow, that's so weird. And I remember asking a professor when we were like on tour in the city, and like, hey, did they brand their city? And he just kind of like, yeah. And I was like, what? That's insane. It's so weird.
Well, the way that even that you talk about the architecture is kind of really contemporary. I feel like it's kind of where we're at in architecture right now, that maybe the form of the architecture takes a backseat and more of the graphical work does the driving for you in projects. I think we're seeing that a lot. So somehow it's cool to see that you kind of have caught that in a moment, and it's represented in the game. So that's I think a huge compliment to you guys as designers, of just being super aware of what you're seeing and what you're reading, that you can even step into other disciplines and have like a really meaningful aesthetic take.
Also, like other random things come up, like we really liked the graphic design of construction sites, like exposed
I was just about to
drywall
bring
where
that
they
up.
have
Yeah.
the logo
The
like
taping.
repeating a million times.
Yeah, if you go down, Maggie, keep going down.
Like Tyvek or something like that.
Right,
Have
right.
you've ever
The house
seen,
wrap
like,
logo, right?
Yeah. Or like stacks of drywall where the logos sort of line up diagonally, and those kind of patterns. That stuff. Like
And slightly below, there's that right there with the kind of
that
stack.
stuff, dude.
Oh my God!
Well,
It's
you
so
always talk
beautiful.
about the OMA project with using the raw drywall
Yeah,
as
and this is actually interesting, because the collapse of high art versus low art, and again, we see this in the game. I kind of I'll mention it as we get into the game. There's like things that are incomplete, right? The trimming on the floor hasn't been fully, been placed, and like at the boundary it says attach.
Love that.
Kind of just tell you like, look, this is where like it's construction recipes or communication. Like, hey, you need to attach something here. And I thought that was beautiful.
Yeah, that's a narrative that someone can interpret.
Yeah,
there.
and then like I think in architecture, one of the biggest firms out there, OMA, led by Rem Koolhaas, he's kind of been known to play with, specifically in the project IIT in Chicago, the Illinois Institute of Technology, their student campus. They have this ceiling running across the entire building that's unfinished. We always talk about this project. It's like amazing that this like multi-million-dollar project, they just left the roof unfinished. And we discussed like how this is not like it's a ploy to think that this is like they did it to cheapen out, because it's like really expensive to kind of finish this. But it's exposed that layer of junk space or whatever it might be in his theories.
I mean, for us, it was a super easy tie-in to the narrative of these colonists that disappeared. Like it was literally unfinished. Like there's supposed to be a sort of mystery component to it, and at one point, like the Roanoke, the story, like was kind of part of it. It's like, what happened? Like the tea kettle's still on, kind of a thing. I do want to get back to the cube, though. There's sort of, and I love that, by the way. And it was incredibly satisfying to see some small, very small, probably cross section of folks see that cube and see the plus sign and feel like that's marathon. The plus sign, actually, I think it's even sort of more interesting that comes originally. The plus sign in our game, and I tried to put a few screenshots of some like wall panels, but it's a scale cube, and it's basically as opposed to a screw or a nail or a rivet. But yeah, it was basically, if you have a wall panel in a realistic game, you would also design screws and rivets. You would build those in geometry, and that's how you would sell both the scale of the thing and also the function of the thing. Obviously, we took the approach of 2D graphic plus sign represent sort of doing the work of a rivet or a screw to sell the scale and to imply the function. And so that's why those things are everywhere. That those little details, 2D decals, selling scale and selling function, is a big part of graphic realism. It sort of got away from, it's a difficult thing to control. I think, especially like to Cristiano's point, there were literally hundreds of people working on this project. Probably 100 artists, and not including marketing and publishing folks and XDev and stuff like that. But that's where the plus sign came from. It wasn't an arbitrary aesthetic decision. It was sort of a scale and functional cue, which is why we believed in it so much. And those kind of gestures also were present on gear and weapons and that kind of thing.
I was gonna say, it's cool that it moved across to like the fashion of the game, and it shows up in a lot of the kind of fits in the game.
Yeah, I'll just say anecdotally, before we came on the call, there was like a little character, and I admired the character, but the first thing I noticed was the plus sign on his hand. That it's like, oh, look at how cute his gloves are.
Yeah, I mean, this is a conversation I want to pack later when we talk about Virgil Abloh and Off-White, but like there's a similarity between the object of the gun, the object of the shoe, the clothes, the like even makeup on people's face, to the buildings, to the floor. Like there's this self-referential idea that kind of emerges graphically that maybe reinforces this kind of graphic realism that deals now, that the way I'm understanding is like a cue for scale, right? And I think that it's really fascinating. I mean, like we're seeing like the guns and the buildings look the same. The fact that the gun is a long barrel and the building is a long barrel that's cantilevered, I didn't think about that now that you're kind of unpacking it. So yeah, super interesting. Should we take a break here as we transition to the game? Actually, yeah, I mean, maybe we could talk about the different classes real quick. Do they have backstories per like shell? Or I mean, I didn't catch that yet.
The idea is, shells are products, and you transfer your consciousness into a shell. And theoretically, the consciousnesses inside the shells have backstories or were once human.
What?
That kind of thing. But
right, because you're not like the game narrative is you're not a human being that's going out there and dying every time. It's just you're going into the synthetic body.
Using a shell.
Using literally a shell.
But what makes a shell a healer shell versus what are other types of shells?
Yeah, those are sort of conventional video game mechanics where they sort of ascribe sort of archetypes to each. So yeah, like you do pick a shell that is like a healer shell or a assault shell, that kind of thing.
All right, so let's jump into it. Yeah, I mean, I have negative things about the gameplay. I'm sure a lot of people have. I feel like my guy overheats too much, and I know you have to like upgrade it.
Wow.
Okay,
the architecture is awesome.
I can't tell you how difficult this is that I can't hear anything, but it's okay. Because sound's a huge part in kind of playing these video games.
Do you know these other people?
Yeah, no.
Are they computer or are they real other people?
It depends. So that guy's. What kind of gun do I have? Oh my God, sorry.
Are you playing right now?
Yeah. Can you see it?
Shit.
Oh.
Yeah. I just didn't know if we were watching a video.
Oh no, it's me. It's I want to like do a tour right now.
So
like
who are these
Rate his skills.
Did you tell your team, hey guys, I'm gonna go do an architecture tour?
Yeah, no, they can't hear me. I mean, if they can, good, but I don't think they can.
Okay.
So I know this space sometimes the kind of AI robots drop in, but this is not one of my favorite spots. I'm not gonna lie, it's very dark.
Dark,
So I'm
scary.
gonna get out of here. I'm gonna leave my team. I'm gonna just die if I die. Fuck it. Actually, one thing I want to notice.
Love
I
the
talk
plastic
about,
sheet.
Yeah. So this is one of the things I talk about in one of my videos. The threshold of this plastic is beautiful. I love that you guys did this. Very big wall. I mean, the graphics
I
everywhere.
can't take personal credit for the plastic sheets.
Okay. I'm just I'm complimenting the team.
Can I ask a dumb question while you're fumbling around? One thing that's really cool about the scale here is sometimes I'm like, is this building, is this vehicle, what, you know what I'm saying? And I really enjoy that, like that there's an ambiguity.
So this is this a new, what's new caloric building or no? It's
New
not.
caloric.
This is okay. So this is one of the logos for it.
Cool.
It's one of the companies that you work for, one of the factions. So I mean, again, like this is I don't know what this is. but
Napkin
it's beautiful.
dispenser, clearly.
No, you have to open it up. Wait,
Got it.
no, yeah. This is maybe a key card holder. Okay, look at the doors.
Cool.
And so one of the things you see is
I
that
love the little hand.
You gotta touch it.
yeah. So I'm just kind of trying to point at nice poster. Now it's gone. Actually, we'll see here. See how it says attach
Oh yeah.
and then seal, right? Is there a narrative behind this? Like, what did you like? Unpack this for me. Like, where does this stuff come
Yeah,
from?
two main sort of sort of inspirations. One was Virgil, you know,
Mhm.
that,
Uh-huh.
and to be clear, also we were making this stuff kind of at peak off-white sort of area time,
Like
and
before he
I
died, right?
loved, yes,
Okay.
yes, I loved you know, you mentioned it was sort of, there's a postmodern component, like there's almost like an absurdist quality to it,
Cool threshold.
that I really like, and then it was sort of just an excuse to get more typography in a space, more graphic design in a space, and it connected well for me also to this narrative of AI and rampant AI, and like, you know, the fantasy that there wasn't like a huge construction crew of like humans here building this stuff. This stuff was all printed on some sort of,
What's
you
this
know,
building? What's this
sophisticated
giant building?
AI. What's this building?
Yeah, what is this thing he's
Sorry,
walking?
Joseph, to cut you off.
I'm sorry, it's
like
just really cool
like
architecture.
Like a child, he just is like, what is F3 over here?
Yeah, I need to know.
Yeah. So anyway, the attach and seal, yeah, it was sort of this deconstructed, borderline absurdist sort of, but it tied into like the idea of AI as printing. If the sort of foreman of the printer of this stuff is AI, they're going to make weird decisions about how they label stuff.
Interesting.
You know?
I mean,
So
yeah, that's super fascinating, actually, that you're thinking about the lore of how things get constructed, because a lot of times we just care about the product, but you're talking about, like, how does the foreman think through something to make weird decisions?
And also, like, I didn't like the idea that that this colony would travel halfway across the universe with like 400 trillion tons of iron ore or something like that.
Yeah.
Like, they built all this stuff using, you know, composite, and they probably you know, used the terrain on Tau Ceti 4 to sort of print this stuff also. Like, they, you know, they had to be smart and resourceful, but also, yeah, this is probably all driven by AI to some extent.
I have to come in with the landscape question.
Yeah.
Wait, before you do, because I'm about to get murked real quick. This building right here, like, I see a lot of curves and a lot of like hard edges. I see that a lot and a lot of blobbiness, and so maybe you can unpack that. And Christian, you can ask that question, because I just have a feeling I'm about to die right now, and I just wanted to ask that real quick. But then this is beautiful. Like, there's like a bubble or like air
Noodle.
filled.
It's a giant noodle.
Giant
Yeah.
noodle, a pipe.
Yeah.
Al
Yeah,
dente.
I mean, there's definitely a component of this stuff that is just, you know, sort of intuitive aesthetic sort of impulses or instincts. Something about that form language felt more organic. It felt more like composite, less like steel or metal or something like that. So, you know, that sort of contributes to it. It also feels inherently sort of modular in a way, you know, meant to ideally, you know, one of the things we indulged was like, both from a production standpoint and from a fiction standpoint, it would make sense if all this stuff was modular. That, you know, that you could essentially kit bash these buildings, and that the colonists did essentially the same thing, sort of IKEA style. Like, IKEA was one of our influences for sure.
It's funny because I bring that up in one of my videos. I'm like, oh my god, this world just looks like IKEA. So it's funny you say that.
I read it weird too. It's very like toy-like, because arguably the curved parts are quite sophisticated to make at an architectural scale.
Well, but also the confusion of like the car, this vehicle, versus this kind of industrialized pipe, versus the actual building, versus the gun that I'm holding. Like, that self-referencing. I look at like Virgil Abloh's like off-white bags versus the off-white storefronts versus like the clothing. There's a self-referencing that happens over and over again, and like the fact that you told me the little plus sign is somewhat not symbolic, but like it's
Scale and function.
instrumental of like meaning, and I think that's really interesting, because now I'm trying to like think of, what does all this mean? Like, I feel like there's a lot of coded stuff in here.
Well, I think the graphic language, though, being so consistent, lets like it also lets you, like, sometimes the ratio of like landscape to building or object kind of is maybe just an interesting dynamic thing that seems to change. Like, either you're on that giant building or you get to just hold the piece of technology. But I guess it's just like a way to experience like many different scales at once.
I mean, the
Totally.
other read of this hard line and soft edge and the way it's playing out as we walk through it, it's in dialogue with NASA like aesthetics
Totally.
as well.
For sure. Yeah, yeah.
My
Yeah, even down to like like if you look at the inside of sort of NASA crew pods or shuttles, there's a lot. There's tape everywhere. There's color. It's on a bright bright white surfaces. There's definitely a NASA
and this
component.
like radiused edges is like I wonder why. I wonder why.
There's your pile of drywall.
Yeah. And then
Yeah.
Tokyo
Out in
streets
the
right
rain.
here.
Yeah.
Can
Yeah,
we give Wally some props that he's survived way longer than he thought he would?
I haven't seen a single runner. I know what's
Yeah,
going
you
on
haven't
here.
gotten
It's
shot
because
yet.
you're not
beginning.
intimidating anyone. No one
Here,
cares.
this
Look at that.
Yeah, look at that.
Yeah.
That seems okay. That's beautiful because it looks like the finish looks like the kind of the undersheathing
Cool.
products of an incomplete building.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
And then the inflated bit on the right there, look at that. The green stuff that it's all kind of the
Oh, this one,
platforms
yeah.
lift on. Yeah.
There's a lot of
Yeah.
also there's very large scale versions of this. I think the scalar shifts between your objects are just absolutely insane. These guys are exfilling without me. I feel like I'm about to die.
What
okay?
does that mean?
You have to exit. Anyway, your landscape question,
Yeah.
Cristiano. What do we got on
Oh, well, it made more sense where we were before, but
I
when
can
we
go back.
were out looking at the new caloric noodle,
Mm-hmm.
and I noticed this at another point as well. There's a lot of stuff flying through the atmosphere,
Hmm.
and
Like my little robot.
Yeah, I love the
I
drone.
wanted to ask
That's my
about
robot.
that
Yeah.
too. No, but there was a moment where it was very turbulent. There's stuff flying through. I didn't know if it
Yeah.
was birds. It looked more like debris. And then there's definitely like electric stuff coming through. So, I mean, I have a ton of
Yeah.
questions, but just in the moment we're in, it looks like there's something happening atmospherically, but other images on the board show like a sunny day.
Oh,
so
I just knocked. Oh my god.
Oh.
How did I not hear that?
Oh. Oh.
Clearly, I have zero headphones on.
Yeah,
My
he's
god,
not
that
hearing the
sucks.
sound.
I just walked in, but my teammate was there. What the fuck, man?
Yeah, it didn't help you out, but you did great.
But to the other question about the environment stuff, like we did, like one of the sort of challenges with the sort of lines we tried to walk was like we wanted this planet to feel Earth-like and familiar and not fantastical, like Avatar or something. But we also wanted to make sure it also felt hostile. Like this was not a comfortable place to be. If you are a human here, you're probably having a hard time.
Yeah, I mean, but also like the fact that the shells that you're in are made of these like the kind of moth produced or not moth.
Yeah,
what are they called?
silkworms.
Yeah, silkworms that
Cool.
produce the shells. Like there's an inherent tie from nature
That-
to this kind of synthetic
That
AI.
the silkworm inspiration initially came from an architectural experiment by Neri Oxman. I don't
Right,
know if you
yeah.
know who she-
Yeah.
the Silk Pavilion, where she had silkworms build a structure,
Right.
basically.
That's amazing that that's the tie.
Yeah,
in there.
that is cool.
Sometimes
Yeah.
you never know what these references come from. Because I feel like this is like so prominent. Every time you enter or load in into one of the maps, it's like you see this animation over and over again. Who would have thought?
Yeah.
It's Neri
So
Oxman.
funny.
Yeah, I think I just watched the Neri Oxman episode on the Netflix Abstract series, and that was like awesome. And her website is so awesome.
I
Holy shit.
love interspecies building.
I mean, it's interesting because a lot of her work comes out of like the work she does at the Media
MIT,
Lab,
yeah.
MIT. Some of the stuff that we see as like fictional or very conceptualized that doesn't reach the masses is now reaching the masses through kind of this fictional tale. And I think that's kind of part of a lot of our students are like, God, I really hate that we do these like highly exclusive, elitist things that don't actually reach the larger
Yeah.
public. But we have to remember that as an architect, you have an influence, especially these days, on the visual culture and maybe narrative of world making in general. I've used that word quite a bit today. But a lot of people are just stuck with like, no, it needs to be building one-to-one, and that's not necessarily the world that we're in these days. Maybe it was 40 years ago, but not today. I mean, I would argue it wasn't 40 years ago, but
I love that it's called the Dire Marsh.
yeah.
Dude, the
Yeah.
graphics on the loading screen, by the way, is so good. Really nice.
Yeah, I love that stuff.
I cannot get over the graphics of this game. Like, I really just hate that it's so sweaty that I get just absolutely destroyed. Now, this is a more
I
advanced
might
map.
actually play this.
You're
and
gonna cry.
deal with the
It,
So
consequences.
these vehicles are large, essentially agricultural vehicles.
Cool.
It does
Like-
look
It's like
that way.
like a futuristic combine or something.
I'm gonna leave my
Yeah.
team and just try to see if I can see the beautiful landscape because I remember this one. I've only played this.
So
one
we're in like a
before.
hangar or something.
We're in a hangar right now. Now hopefully there's no runners
Can we
next to
go
us.
into the marsh?
I'm trying.
Ooh, look at the marsh.
Well,
And I
hold on.
definitely want to look down at
Yeah.
the water.
What do you mean
Can you
down?
just stand
this? You want
defensively
this?
and look down?
I also need to survive to a certain degree. What's
I
happening?
think you're going to.
Oh, yeah,
you're
yeah.
going out of bounds.
Okay.
Uh-oh.
Oh, so
Okay.
we can't go in.
No, you have to go the other way. It's fine.
You gotta earn the marsh.
You gotta earn the marsh. Okay, let's just go
I
through.
love the portals,
Do
man.
you guys have any? Oh God! Oh my God!
Just got
Oh,
murked.
man.
How did I run into runners that early? Oh my God!
Whoa! Oh, and they finished you. That was
Uncalled for.
violent.
Oh my God!
Hey, can we look at the door threshold while you're dying there,
Yeah.
really quick? The door threshold.
Can you talk about the color, the bright colors, like kind of the bright yellows and stuff that we see? Well, why? I mean, how do you select what the main color is, right? Because that to me, I don't know. Like, I'm not an artist, and I
He's
don't know
also
how to,
partially colorblind.
yeah, I am
Sorry,
partially
Joseph.
colorblind, so there's that. But like, this kind of bright color always stands out to me, and I'm just obsessed with it. And I just wonder. A lot of times people avoid it, especially these days. Like, well, the color of the year was what, white or something like that. You know, like
Beige.
yeah, or whatever it was.
No, it's like
like
Snow White.
yeah, it's just like I don't know. Like these days, this kind of boldness tends not to be out there. And I know a lot of people, and I hate to say this, a lot of people actually don't like the aesthetic. From what I've either people love it or hate it.
Yeah,
And so like, I just wonder what your thoughts
Definitely.
is about that. And like, you guys have to make a product that sells, that it can live a long life in terms of video game. And so like
Yeah.
to pick something you know is not going to be neutral can't possibly be easy,
Maybe
right?
I said emissive before, but it's like neon.
In terms of the color palette.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot to navigate there. First of all, just to answer your first question, this sort of primary like highlighter yellow color, it came from essentially putting a twist on the original Marathon color. You know, Marathon. This is a remake essentially.
Right.
Marathon was a game that came out from. It's one of Bungie's early games that came out in the early 2000s, late 90s. And so it felt like a natural evolution to sort of put this sort of yellow sulfur highlighter twist on it. Like, you know, this is Marathon Green 2.0. I did have concerns because it is everywhere. Like even when we committed to this, 6 years ago, there were a ton of brands using this color. Vice
Yeah.
was a big one.
How's everyone doing?
Right. Yeah.
Nike, then the whole Brat Summer thing.
Oh yeah.
All that. So it's
Okay,
honestly,
what I
like,
need to
had
do.
insecurity about that.
I think I was supposed to make 2 new
Should we, like, is it too ubiquitous
traits and
kind of a thing?
perks for this.
Just something else, Joseph, about that I really enjoy is that I think, and maybe this is tying into the landscape a little bit too, is that the atmosphere in general actually does gray out a little bit more, and because your objects in the
Yeah,
game can
I
talk
need to
about
make
even
one
those sort of,
more
like, matte versus gloss, high
implant
contrast, highly
attribute and one
machined
more trait perk.
against that natural, very rugged
Yeah.
landscape works really well with the neon colors. It seems to do really well. Like, if just looking at this scene,
Yeah.
there's the mechanism is kind of gray, or the machinery is kind of gray, but then the highlighted color of your character and the gun and the weapon is so bold.
But even the contrast of this flatness to the kind that's the Unreal Engine kind of. I know it's not Unreal Engine, but I'm just
But
kind
that
of
kind of
generically
feeling.
like that kind of realism that you get out of it versus kind of the flatness of this, and also the graphic white or any color that you apply to it, just is done so well.
So visually stimulating.
And then this is like be our last run, and we gotta move on to the other stuff.
Part of me, there's definitely part of me that feels like we got away with something with all of this. We had incredible support from leadership at the studio early on. We knew there was risk. We knew that it was probably going to be polarizing potentially. It shouldn't compromise the gameplay experience. Obviously, like if the game is fun and you don't love the art style, you should still have fun playing the game. That's fine. But yeah, and I also thought,
Knife fight
personally,
survival kit.
if you're not doing something that sort of divides, it's probably
Regen,
not that
graceful
interesting,
landing, thick
right,
skull
period.
protector.
And I think I think the studio understood that, and it was worth,
And
sort
it's
of
just a
taking the
shield.
risk. And the art style always came back positive, and there's a lot of UI so we were, keeping tabs on it the whole way. But that was ultimately, it was exciting. It was just like, holy shit.
Do you mind me just asking really quick about that as a follow-up? Like, how much pressure? I mean, look, man, Joseph, one thing I think about for your job is, like, you must have a lot of pressure on you as a director in a way. Like, you're given some space and some freedom to world build, but man, that must come with a lot of pressure sometimes that you feel like you really need to deliver, it needs to hit. So, like, how often are you checking in with the user research? And like, really, like, how fucking stressful is it to build a project like this?
I don't know, like, I believed in it so much. I know this is good. Like,
Yeah.
I know, our team was so talented and the vision was so inspiring and sort of stimulating all of the time that I really, I didn't have a lot of second guessing, and I was sure that we're on the right side of visual history here, this whole time. And so definitely, I mean, there's stresses, sort of in a leadership role within any studio, but visually, I always felt like, man, I'm dying on this hill. Maybe there's ego there too,
But you kind of need that.
I think you need it. Yeah, I think you need that, and the team needs to believe that you believe.
Yeah.
For sure, especially for a style, unusual style. That.
Yeah.
And thankfully, I didn't have to fake it. Like at no point did I have to come in and sort of try to sell a vision I didn't believe in, because I believed in it the whole time.
I mean, could you be any luckier, right, to work on something that you actually believe in? That's awesome to hear, man.
Completely, like once in a lifetime for sure.
Definitely.
Like, it's on a AAA level, 100%. Like the stars aligned, for sure.
Can I ask, oh, sorry. I was just gonna ask one last question from my point, and then Cristiano, you can ask your question. How confusing is this meant to be for like an individual? Because like I said that real quickly in like the short that I haven't released yet. Is this world seems very confusing. Like, if I look at this, I just have an overload of graphics. But in a way, you kind of said this isn't actually a world for humans as much as it is for like maybe AI and stuff. I know there's humans on here, but like, is that part of the narrative? Because the graphic overload is not very realistic in terms of comfortability. Like, I'd probably get a client to say, "What the hell are you doing? Remove these graphics. What the fuck are you doing?"
Yeah. This is not a commercial space. This is not a space designed for human comfort.
Why are you snapping? Why are you snapping so hard?
The line, we can't go over this line where it's affecting gameplay negatively. And arguably you could, maybe some people do have the experience that, sort of.
Ooh, this computer is chugging.
Sort of less than desirable way for gameplay. It certainly, on paper has a lot, high contrast sort of spaces aren't great for competitive FPS like esports shooters, for example. But yeah, I mean, we embrace that narrative of like, yeah, you're supposed to feel a little bit uncomfortable here. This wasn't really made for you, that kind of thing. And yeah, and for sure, some spaces it works better than others. It's a difficult thing to control at scale, and when you're also outsourcing content and that kind of thing. So, yeah. So there's, I don't know, that's sort of an answer.
Cool, thanks. Cristiano, what was your question?
Well,
We'll
that
wrap
made
out of
me
here.
think of two things. Shoot, what was I thinking? Well, one, we had in that disorientation thing. I thought it was interesting on the call we had previously. You'd mentioned that something to the effect of like, if it looks good from above, it should work below, as like a theory for designing. And I wonder, and I didn't, get a chance to elaborate on that in the call, but actually from my training and standpoint, that's like an older sort of top-down methodology where actually you miss a lot by not being immersed. And hearing what Waleed said, like being in it and it being confusing on a graphic level, but maybe on an organizational level too, I wonder how much that comes from that methodology of like top-down making.
Yeah, I mean, and
What
to be
the
fair,
frick?
or to be clear, like art can only control so much. Like spaces like this are heavily.
Jesus, what is my computer
curated by
doing?
the design team.
It's like
When I say
freaking
design,
out.
in video games, design has nothing to do with visual
graphics,
design. It's about the spatial design. It's like the gameplay team. So the gameplay team is in here moving objects around, sort of giving feedback to the 3D artists about, how big a space is, or, like there needs to be cover everywhere, for example. Like, it's not a coincidence that there's a giant crate every 15 yards, that's for cover. So the spirit of what I meant when I was like looking at aerial photography, it was the same thing I talked about with like the Daniel Everett photography, where you can't believe stuff wasn't aesthetically considered. When you look at stuff from above, it's so satisfying and so pleasing graphically that it's almost like you hope that if you consider that angle, that it imbues the stuff with sort of a visual quality that it's non-specific, but it's like it's just an interesting angle. And another thing we tried to try to pull off with a map like this is authenticity. Like, we didn't want this spaces to feel like you feel like a chessboard or something like that. Like you hoped to sort of imbue it with functional authenticity, even in sort of a fictional context. So that's where that came from.
I think we could just get off this game session now.
You found a good spot though here, Waleed.
But like this, like the soft edge here of like the actual fabric collapsing in, the hard edge of this object, where you can see like cantilevers off to this round object, to the nature, like the combination of this stuff
So
is just
interesting.
absolutely
Spatially
stunning,
really
dude.
unique.
Like, there's so much going on. I mean, 6 years to work on this, and there's trends come and go. I think you guys did a fantastic job, no matter how well or bad the end up like marketing of this game ends up being in terms of its longevity. I know games are very hard to kind of sustain a long life line. That's why there's only like 4 or 5 games that are out there that everyone knows. But I think you guys made a splash, and it's fantastic. I think we'll kind of switch gears here, because I do want to talk about just at least 1 or 2 more things before we log totally off. So
I want to play now. I'm gonna have to play it.
yeah, me and you will play. I think I'm going to try to do a series where I walk in.
Yeah, I want to see you play. I want to say you.
Christiana, no one is fucking stopping you. You could just go
You
and...
said you want to play with Caleb.
You're unlikely to get the game. Guaranteed. But if you do, I'll play with you. No problem. You play... what's the game we mentioned earlier? No, the one that you watch people play often. Arc Raiders. Do you play?
Tarkov or Arc Raiders?
Arc Raiders.
I want to play.
Yeah, I also want to play
Arc Raiders is great. I mean,
dude.
that's a very incredibly talented artist working on that project, and they pulled off, like, I would say, like a conventional kind of post-apocalyptic aesthetic in a really satisfying way.
Yeah, like a fun way, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
To switch gears, we have this thing called Smash or Pass, but apparently the algorithm does not like that name, because apparently that sounds
You could
inappropriate.
say yeah or nah. No,
Yeah
I'm
or
just
nah,
kidding.
or pass or trash, I think is what I see it on the
Pass
online.
or trash? Wait,
Um,
but what's the good one then?
Pass, like it passes, or it's
Oh,
trash.
well, we can't switch that. Just
Okay.
do the smash or pass. People know.
Yeah or nah, I guess. So the first project that I want to look, I think we're gonna go around the table, and I just want to hear people's opinion on what they think about this project. This is oh my god, I'm forgetting. Kunstal Graz by Peter Cookie. I mean, this is like the height of blob architecture, but it's also got this kind of sci-fi to it. Anyway, I'm not going to describe the project any further than that. So I say I love this project. Yeah.
Are you starting?
Yeah.
Hey, Nia, are you going next? You want to
Yeah.
go this way? Are you yang or nang? We can't do this. It's
Yeah.
gotta-
No, yeah or nah?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Maggie? Oh, nice.
You don't like it? Okay.
Wait, I thought that was a yeah.
She said it's an ew. It's an ew.
Oh, ew. Okay, ew. Joseph, what do you think?
I mean, I'm gonna have to go but probably with some, an
Reservations. Okay. Mayor, what do you think? Yeah, okay, he says yeah.
He's a thumbs up.
Christiana?
I think I'm a yeah.
Dude, where is the microphone? Is it behind your hand? It's behind your chin.
I'm so dizzy.
Is it
I'm
behind your head?
still vertigoing a little. I watch too intense.
Is that a yes or a no on Peter?
It's a yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I gotta say yes on Peter Cook.
Okay.
But I
I
do
gotta say
have there's moments that I'm not a fan of.
You don't like the knobs on top, or what?
No, that's what I
nipples?
like.
Oh, the udders.
That's what I like the most.
It definitely is a building that is an udder. It is an upside down udder.
I'll circle some of the things I'm not a fan of.
We
We can move
We
on.
don't need to do that.
No, you can move on. I'm gonna
Okay,
just...
this next project in Tokyo. Man, I'm forgetting the architect. Oh my god.
Wait, which one? This is not Tokyo.
We're scrolling down. Sorry, no, right there.
Yep.
Tokyo project by one of the Metabolist architects. I totally forget the name. My god.
Oh,
So
this is a
it's-
really
yeah,
shitty
take-
vector
take
foot.
away my academic vision. But anyway,
No
I'm
straight
gonna-
lines or
I'm a yeah for
anything.
this as well. I'm gonna always start, by the way. Nihar,
I'm gonna pass.
Whenever I
No, you
try
gotta
using the
pass.
tablet
you gotta, yeah,
on
no,
a stylus, the
yeah, okay. Maggie said
computer
yeah.
freaks out.
Okay,
It's
cool.
not good.
Mayor. Okay, yeah, we get another. Yeah. Oh, Joseph, I forgot you.
I'm a nah.
Oh, nah.
Yeah.
Okay. Have you been to Tokyo, Joseph?
Yeah, a few times.
Have you seen this in real life?
I have not.
Oh, okay. This is like on an island somewhere. I remember seeing it once.
You can see it from like Tokyo Bay. It's
Yeah,
like,
I went to the Gundam Museum. That's where it's at. It's like right next to it. So, Cristiano.
I'm also a nah.
Oh, okay.
yeah, it's not my favorite of the Metabolist. I'm gonna say
Oh
nah.
my God.
It's not my favorite. There's better.
Yeah. Okay, guys.
Tokyo has better Metabolist projects.
All right. So now I want to switch over to the project on the left. This is a project by Snowhetta.
Oh,
It's in
yeah.
the middle of the desert. It's a tower that's also a blob. I kind of picked these projects, by the way, because they kind of just remind me of like futuristic or kind of the soft, hard edge
Yeah, this looks
conversation
like
that we had. Yeah, so I kind of did
marathon
this on
stuff.
purpose. This is a real building. It kind of looks like it's 3D printed. I don't even know. I think it's like metal the exterior, though, that's kind of like wires or coils. Very strange Snowhetta project. It's kind of, I forget when it was built, but kind of mid 2010s.
Yeah.
Digital era kind of runoff at this point. I'm going to say no. I don't really like this project. Nihar.
No.
Maggie says no. Joseph?
I'm also a nah.
Okay. And Nihar says no. Cristiana?
I'm like mid.
Mid. Okay.
No. Yes or no? Yes or no?
No, I'm like pretty mid. I think my first reaction was nah.
You saw
Okay,
some
very good.
bushes and you're like, you like it.
What is it?
You saw some
Like-
bushes on the ground, you liked it.
No, actually, I liked it when I thought of it being related to the marathon stuff, but I don't like the slicey,
The graphics.
I don't know.
Yeah, architects aren't very good at graphics a lot of times.
Like
I
the
mean,
window stuff. I don't like that.
yeah.
I like the eye window. I don't like the angle windows.
I'm a yeah on this one, and
Really?
I'm the opposite.
You love Snowhetta.
Listen,
you said yes
no,
to
I
every
don't.
Snowhetta project.
No, I actually, this one I like more than the other one we discussed. The reason I like this one is for the scalar conversation that we've been having, is that it's very unusual to see a building where you can't actually find a scalar element
Oh,
that tells you
right.
how big it is. That image on the right, that could be a skyscraper, or that could be literally like, I don't know, 6 stories. So I think this is a really interesting project. I bet you if you saw it in real life, you'd really like it.
Yeah, I think that the digital project, just so our architecture, fans that listen in, like, we talk about the digital turn in architecture a lot, where we start stepping into software a lot.
I don't like
and
the wing. Let's
context,
get rid of the wing.
buildability. Went out the window for a little bit, and it was just more about the form and form making. And your point, Caleb, is that this is kind of lost in that space that you can scale it up or scale it down. And I think there were actually digital architects that did that. Like if the building was too small, they literally scaled it up so it could fit the site, or scaled it down.
We would do that.
and
And you
this-
take one project, you scale it, and put it on
Yeah.
another site. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's interesting.
Yeah, I think
I
it's a
feel
good
like
one.
all of these, like, the caveat here is like, I'm glad it exists, but
Right.
like so.
Are you paying for it, right? If you have an extra $500 million
Right.
in your bank account. We have
Yeah,
another.
there's one more. This is a weird one that I found online. This is also in Japan somewhere, I guess Tokyo. And Maggie, if you could just kind of scroll through the Instagram images. You don't have to click the link. Okay, you can click the link. It's fine.
That's
Um,
cool.
And this one's weird. I love the eye. And it's got this kind of weird graphic bridge that connects into it. That kind of reminds me of Gundam ships. And yeah, it's just a really bizarre project. And I just wanted to put it up there because it's got the pipes on it. It looks ruinous. I love the combination between machine and ruin, or industrial and ruin. So that's why I picked this. I love it. And
Such
also
a
the eye.
weird building.
The eye character is just so bizarro. This is a definite yes for me. It's got my taste in it, definitely. Nihar, what do you think? Definitely no for you because you hate my taste.
You took the words right out of my
Yeah, buddy. That's because you're not talented. Remember that, Nihar.
Ouch.
Joking.
Jesus, that was harsh, Maggie.
I kind of like it.
There we see. I trained her well. That's why.
To give her a lukewarm response.
Better than Nihar's.
Joseph, what do you think about this thing? It's weird. What do you think?
I think I think I have to be a nah on it. It feels sort of cartoonishly proportioned, almost like a.
It's
Fortnite
weird. I
building
know.
or
You
something, like
you
a
can say it. That Waleed's style just sucks.
Nihar feels
I don't know
vindicated
Waleed's
right now.
style, but I think the interior seemed more interesting than the exterior. I couldn't tell, but yeah, I mean, thinking about all the amazing buildings in Japan, this would not be on my top 500. I'm sure.
Oh, God.
Ouch.
Ouch.
Okay.
Christiana?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
I like
You're a weirdo like me. Okay.
Well, what I'm trying to figure out though is I've seeing it far away thought it had multi-material and I really like that, but I like that it's age. I'm wondering would I like it brand new? I don't know, but that doesn't matter because it is what it is and I like it as it is. So
And just to be fair, I only like it in certain images, like that image that's
Third
back in
one.
the very first one on the Moreau board. I like the most.
Yeah.
It looks like the Jawa sandcrawler.
Yeah, it does.
Absolutely.
I think when you see the trapezoid, it's like super freaky. I agree. It's very ugly there. Caleb, what's your thoughts?
I put an image on the board. It's like drunk Notre Dame de Haut,
Oh,
and
I hate
I'm
Notre
I'm
Dame.
super into it. It's like Corb had a rough day in the office, and he just kind of fucked up the drawings. I'm super into it. I love it.
don't like that chord.
I mean, it's way too geometrical to be a core project. I think.
I
Like it's
don't
too
know.
sharp.
Lake Corb, like yeah, even
Uh,
the wall. But I
yeah.
like it. I'm into it.
Got the big deep punch. Anyway, that's that.
The big
I mean, we don't have much time
It
left.
does look like the Eye of Sauron.
Could we do the visual artist in a little bit in more depth? We didn't get to talk.
Yeah,
chance to talk about
let's talk
his
about that.
reference.
Um,
What is that?
Right below that, Maggie, if there is a link to the visual artist that we mentioned a couple times, one
it's
below. One
the
below
very,
that.
very bottom.
Sorry, it's actually one below that. That
There we go.
right there, yeah. Yeah, you turned us on to this photographer, so maybe you want to talk about it, Joseph, a little bit, and we could respond. But really love this reference.
Because I feel like this is a great conversation piece that connects maybe some of the product-oriented Virgil Abloh conversations. Because there's something in here that's just like so hung and amazing. So
It's hard. Like, I'm just such a fan of his work and his vision. It felt, one of those, like, I've been aware of his work before Marathon. Found him on a Tumblr somewhere. He focuses on construction sites and sort of the deconstructed under construction fantasy was a big thing for us. The way that he processes his photographs, flattens things out. The subject matter, he always focuses on color and interesting sort of graphic design of color. There's another artist I really love called Wade Guyton. He's a fine artist who he sort of misprints, uses large format printers sort of in a way to create misprints. And I think that Daniel Everett also, there's sort of authenticity to his work, a sort of graphic that's sort of simultaneously incredibly cool graphic design, but without sort of the artist's hand, like he's not a graphic designer. It's just a bunch of these sort of qualities.
No, it's okay. I mean, if I could just respond to it a little bit, I think that the reason I was really excited that you brought this up was it seemed a little bit like a cheat code of your own reading in the graphic realism work, because it almost, again, it's sort of like in some of the architectural images specifically, it kind of makes the building go back in space a little bit grays it out, a little bit lower contrast, and then there's always some other element or maybe super graphic or colorful element seems to emerge. Like Maggie, if you pause on that one for a moment, one below, like the air traffic controller tower here. In this case, it's just very literally super graphic. It's washed over the image, which has been kind of desaturated. But if you scroll down, Maggie, there's a couple others where I think he's just got an amazing eye for composition. The color wash is kind of letting you see figures and forms in the image that you wouldn't have seen otherwise. It's really beautiful.
I mean, the other thing is, sometimes it looks like it's pictures of found objects, found conditions. Sometimes positioning something overlay. Sometimes in gallery spaces or electronic devices. It's that play of you don't stick within your one medium. Kind of your project is tied into found and made, and it's a cycle between them. And I think that's actually one of the most fascinating things about this artist. It's hard to pinpoint what it is.
Yeah, there's also, I mean, it's a kind of a cliche, but sort of finding the interest in sort of the mundane spaces, and that's one of the things I'm most satisfied with Marathon is it's not the sort of grand epic scale, it's not even the micro detail or the sort of design language. It's the average room, the average space, something that's 10 feet by 10 feet, and finding the compositions within that space.
That's interesting. It's like and maybe I'm finally coming full circle to it, but in a way, you kind of need to be a designer of, we often think about almost iconic moments in design as architects, how do you feature something really expressive and iconic, but in a way, I think what you're doing is so much more interesting because you need to produce that in some way, right? This iconic vision of the game, but you just described this amazing kind of other problem, which is
canvases and start to kind of, embody the good old times, as they say. And this, you start to see it emerging also in graphic design and art, where I guess we're pulling up an Instagram reel of the anti-tech. So things are like hand-drawn on products. There's a lot of like, irregular lines, and it actually is really beautiful, and I actually love it a lot. It actually seems nostalgic to me, to my childhood of just watching like goofy cartoons like Rocco's Modern Life or whatever. Yeah, me too. But like, in your position, also this is a position against the digital and maybe the AI high fidelity that we see a lot. I wonder where do you sit between kind of the digital AI rise and the kind of anti-tech? But yeah, I just want to know your thoughts about this, Joseph, especially kind of being in the art direction world. Like, how do you see this playing out between people that you know and your own thoughts?
My first thought is that probably one of those cases where moderation, somewhere in between is probably how I feel. Like, I don't feel strongly aligned with an anti-tech movement. I like a lot of the results. Like, I've those artists, that artist I mentioned, Wade Guyton, he was, I don't know, sort of an interesting version of that, where he creates all of his work by misusing printers, and like there's this interesting, I mean, it's sort of sort of meets this halfway, where he uses digital materials, but he also takes the artist's hand out of it. That's something I've always struggled with, is like the artist's hand and things feeling authentic. So, those examples of anti-tech art I like, but just compositionally. But I'm always interested in technology and how it's sort of tools. But yeah, it's an interesting question. Like, I know for Marathon, for example, we definitely wanted to lean into a graphic design style that didn't feel like there was a graphic designer designing this stuff, that there was an authenticity to the mark making that didn't feel connected to ego. And so I think that it's all sort of intertwined. So yeah, anyway.
I mean, that's an interesting way of articulating, especially the ego part. I think I think you having an art background, you appreciate like the kind of maybe the deep thoughts, the discipline of the art and how it advances. Like, you kind of see a benefit of both, maybe like a hybrid, especially kind of the artist that you mentioned that takes the hand out of the artist. And I take it back to like, I mean, the most extreme version would be, I guess like maybe the Dada movement, and taking a urinal and flipping upside down, and it's just this found object. But you can also talk about silhouette, right? I mean, the difference between silhouette and Duchamp in that case is like, well, one, someone decontextualizes, and I think it's all about decontextualization. I take it back to Marathon. I think Marathon does a really good job of decontextualizing a lot of things, from graphics and meaning, and also scale and meaning.
Yeah.
And also then when we talk about this analog versus digital, I think it's interesting. People hate the AI workflows, and I haven't really had a position. I don't have like a deep position on it right now. I'm just exploring what it means for me personally. But I imagine the people that hate silhouette and Duchamp hate the AI stuff, and those that can appreciate what that way of thinking has brought forward to the art world and design world can appreciate maybe there's potential. Yes or no. I think a lot of times the people that hate it actually have the biggest egos, and I shouldn't say that. That's the wrong way of saying it. It's just like everyone has their values and how they define their own authorship, and I feel a lot of people imagine unless you actually draw the thing. The same thing with like Takashi Murakami's another one that gets attacked all the time because it doesn't actually make every single print. It really just depends on what you value, and for me, I'm always value kind of the deeper cultural idea.
Can I bring something up related to this? Because we've actually talked about this before in other mediums, but in this one specific, there's something interesting about this idea of like the aura of craftsmanship. And I'm going somewhere with this, but to basically say like whether it's digital, whether it's not, like the thing that I would appreciate about Marathon, like we're still watching like the gameplay on the screen here, is like hearing you talk about, Joseph, the narrative and thinking that went into like each of even the thoughts about how material is handled and assembled in this fictional world. I mean, we can go all the way back to like Walter Benjamin's reproduction in the Age of the Machine to think about like there's an aura attached to how we make these things, and I think there's something honest, or you mentioned authenticity, Joseph, about the way that you've arrived at your product, at the game, and the way
So for me, like I connect Solowit to an architect, Peter Eisenman, who Peter Eisenman, I think was obsessed with. I would have to say Solowit, but I mean more forward his structuralist projects dealt with Noam Chomsky's structuralism, and the idea that process is the project itself and not the authored hand that has the sensibility to construct the end result is really interesting, because a lot of it is like the diagrams, procedural process things into the end result. For me, I really like when I was learning architecture and as an early designer, Peter Eisenman was super important because to me it was a very highly conceptual project that was structured in a way that removed the authorship of your own hand being sensible. Obviously, it's the instructions that matter. For me, when I look at Solowit, the projects that matter, the ones I was referencing, it's the ones where the design, the art, I should say, is the instructions, and then that medium transfer between the person that actually constructs the work. Oh,
I
sorry.
think that's used for a lot of us in architecture, right? Because we're doing the drawing, and we're not necessarily the constructors.
Yeah, one can make that argument too, but for me, it's like it's that where do you tie the author? What do you tie the author? Because a lot of people say like, well, Solowit didn't do this. It's the person that drew the thing at the Art Institute of Chicago. Like, no, it's like it requires you to dig deeper into the conceptual project. And I understand it's not for everybody, and it's a cultural project. You want to call it craft, you want to call it art, whatever. It doesn't really matter. I just know it has influence beyond itself to people like the architects that I mentioned before. And I think that's what's important. It's kind of the cultural transfer of visual identity and thought. That's what I value the most. It's not the end result of the product. I always tell my students, I care more about the process and what you think or you analyze something rather than the product. The product is thing you know. It's just basic, right? But the construction, the art is that's again my value. The difference is like why Jackson Pollock's work is worth millions to kid trying to make the same thing you have. I think there's a difference between the intent, the argument, obviously the critic, that kind of the project work. There's a whole things to unpack, not to mention that
Joseph's work as an artist, right? So he does like Solowit and like he needs it to go through 6 more mediums and 150 more hands before it gets to the consumer, right?
And maybe that's the heart of the question where the issue is like people say, well, this is not art anymore, it's corporate slop, or whatever it is, right? And obviously, I would never kind of disrespect any kind of artist, but I think that's the danger when you start saying, well, if you can do it by yourself, you're not an artist. And I'm sure you have people like that.
That's also like that the best part of it, as you said, is that
Right.
Like authorship.
Yeah. And that's why I was trying to make my argument before. I think it's the people that have the biggest, they have the biggest issues because they can't let it go. They can't also can't work with the team that they did from my perspective. And I have like a bias because I work with people in this and I see it all the time where it's like they can't let go of their self-publishing. And that's great to have it and it's pride, but
Like we said, you can't always do a project without it.
yeah, I mean, it's tough because like it depends on who you're working with. Because sometimes that ego is like one of the reasons that throws me out of the professional because like, I can't handle it. It's so annoying. But as an individual creating my work, you can handle this video and awesome. Anyway, like maybe we can like wrap up here, but yeah, just kind of just looking at this marathon. Again, shout out to the entire team. I know it's been everyone that kind of worked on it. It's a tremendous
It's an
feat.
army, it sounds like.
It seems like, it's ongoing as these games usually do. So power to them. I just kind of looking at this image. There's a lot that we unpacked today that deals with maybe the difference between craft and high art in terms of like intellectual things that are nested in the work that maybe we would appreciate that maybe the everyday gamer doesn't. But there's always a subconsciousness that sees it and then you try to unpack it. I always tell my students, your brain understands it. I think the game does a very good job where it's so stimulating that a lot of people can't really articulate what it's about.
isn't active on one map at a time, I believe, which next I guess will be Outpost. Just generally, I'll say overall it's one of the best PvP maps I've ever played, one of the most interesting extraction experiences, incredibly cool. The only like concern I have is like basically how it seems like you have to have so much time in the game to really experience everything that it has to offer, and it's kind of like one of those situations where you have something that's so cool and you want to share with everyone, but also it's not going to be an experience for everyone just based off the amount of time it takes to really get the keys and to get the gear to be able to experience it. But I'm having a ton of fun with it. And once again, early thoughts, opinions, thoughts, ideas will change. I'm going to be breaking down kind of like where I'm coming from in terms of the more narrative stuff because that's what interests me the most. But these are all, my initial kind of reaction to these things and what I think is going on. And as I digest more and more, those things may change. I'll also note that I have done 4 vaults, so far 4 or 3. But I only got 1 AI subroutine. I have read the first 2 or 3 entries that come when you do the AI subroutines. That's the Codex entry, Introduction to the Unknown, where it seems like Durandal is directly talking to us about our expedition, our journey through the marathon or through the Cryo Archive, unlocking the vaults as it's happening, because obviously he's the one who called us here. So once again, things could change as I digest information and learn more and see more. I have seen the compiler boss fight. I have seen the kind of breach area that's after that. So I've seen all these things, haven't experienced them all entirely in game. Like I said, just done the 4 vaults, and I've only gotten 1 subroutine out of there. I'm pretty sure I've lost just about everything that I got out of there except for the lore entries, which stay in the Codex, which is nice to see. So I'm going to start by talking about the ARG. The ARG is what unlocks the Cryo Archive. Obviously, it probably was kind of like on a timer and they wanted it to come out at a certain point. But the community has engaged with like external websites as well as like terminals inside of the maps in the game, all like at certain points to unlock different stages. There were 7 steps total. If you want like a kind of more in-depth breakdown of that process as it was going on, I recommend checking out Scaro9's videos. He was kind of right there along the way, documenting and streaming and stuff as that was happening. So very cool thing to do. I think in terms of exploring narrative in interaction with genre, these types of like puzzle things are a really great avenue for them to do something very different and like present the story in a way that's kind of unique to this live service concept and draws a lot of player engagement. Like I've been saying before though, my only caveat with that is I wish it was timed out a little bit better because 99% of people playing the game were still trying to do priority contracts or get gear, or they didn't really have time to do the game, whereas I feel like it became a little bit later, or maybe if they had some time to spend on Marathon, would have checked out or done the priority well line. Things are deactivated. I ran up to and also at the side note here, none of those Durandal lines of weapons, none of the priority contracts, audio, visual components, none of that stuff is all because Codex still included in it. I will recommend if you guys codex.cyberacne.systems is an incredible website. I'll have it linked in the description where you can click through all of the features and systems and audio logs. They've done a fantastic job building it up, so I recommend checking that out. Getting back to the ARG, I think it was really cool. I think all of that work was put together to make it really great. Had Durandal basically banging on stage and everyone on ship. You got to see separate little audio pieces of the Strauss and talk about the marathon itself and how profoundly impactful it was in history and what it represented in the concept of being together outside of our solar system, which I think is all of that came together to really set up the grand nature of actually finally making it to the marathon ship in this game, which is not only the kind of pinnacle in-game experience aside from ranked mode, but also like in the terms of the universe and what it represents, that this ship is in orbit of this planet in a different star system that's almost 12 light years away from Seoul. Like it built up how extreme it was, and I think that paired really well with the difficulty and the unique experience that exists there from a gameplay perspective. All super cool to see. Wish it was kind of more accessible to more people, like with all this stuff in terms of being in the codex and maybe happening at a time that wasn't like directly stacked right on top of the game's launch. But it was cool to see, and also kind of brought up a few of the questions that we've had about the larger Marathon universe when it comes to this game in particular, and what's canon from the original games, and is it a new timeline? Like, Durandal is beckoning the runners to the Marathon ship, calling them up here, telling them they're trespassers, saying that, the runners are all that he has left. What does that mean? What about merging with an ancient Yarrow hand? What about all that you learned in Lafwan? What about working? All these things, So clearly it seems like those events, Durandal doesn't necessarily have a recollection of playing out the same way as they did in the originals. So it was cool to kind of see some of these threads start to get pulled when it came to Durandal's position inside of the universe of this game. Kind of introducing those ideas back to us, maybe giving a little bit more of an understanding of where Durandal is at this point in the game, as we're experiencing these things in Tau 74 in the late 29th century. Then, when the game finally launched, the ARG complete, on the actual launch day, 2 weeks ago at this point, in your map set screen, we got this incredible cinematic, introduction of Durandal about coming to the Marathon. Here's the honestly, my biggest takeaway from that is the now to see it right next to the digital version of what Durandal's avatar looks like alongside the Marathon ship itself in this cool little intro cutscene, we know that that's Durandal, and that's what we are seeing there. And he's kind of like this sinister force, and he has that creepy kind of smiling face. And also the representation of the Marathon itself. We have the stone structure, the moon Deimos around it, and we see the ship itself almost grow a handle and a shield guard and handguard. And so it becomes a sword. The idea of the original game where the security officer was on the Mjolnir cyborg, which is this force hammer. Mjolnir was a weapon itself, and it always returned to its owner. And then also Durandal was named after an ancient holy weapon. So having this idea of these weapons and who's wielding them and what is their purpose being kind of one of these overarching themes from the original trilogy, and now to see that come so directly into view in this new entry where Durandal's literally being depicted as a sword stuck in stone, and he's calling us there. So now it's positioning us as the runners to go boldly free from the stone. What happens when that sword is free? Do we become the ones who wield Durandal? Does Durandal like much so in the original game where, the security officer and the cyborg goes to Levin and is being wielded by Durandal as a weapon for his ends, always returning back to the terminals to talk to Durandal in the same way that the Mjolnir hammer itself always returns back to its owner. So to see that kind of like full circle into, I think, largely set up what the main kind of driving plotline will be from the perspective of the runners as we go forward and we learn more about what actually happened for the Marathon and what the goals are of these factions. It seems like the side narrative, what's going to become our individual goals as missionaries in the star system, is going to be freeing Durandal from the predicament he finds himself in now, trapped on board the Marathon, so 100+ years removed from everything that happened in the original trilogy. So very cool to see that. I really enjoyed it. I think visually it was spectacular, like all bold cutscenes things they've done. And once again, setting up kind of this larger narrative stuff, I think in a lot better way than what we saw in what I'm assuming, once again, is the bulk of the seasonal story progression content inside of those priority contracts. All right, so moving on, I want to talk a little bit about the collectibles. The intel entries obviously are where we're getting so much of the world building for this game, and I think specific to the Marathon ship itself, the world building coming from the Intel entries is doing a little bit more to kind of like shape what's happening in present day as opposed to just filling out the world. With that being said, a lot of the entries are just expanding on things from the original games or introducing more context for people who aren't familiar with kind of the larger universe of Marathon. But there are like 3 or 4 entries that I feel like are entirely new, and rather than like expanding on ideas, are really kind of shaping what this story is going to be going forward. So I want to just briefly, talk through each of them and give you my early thoughts on them. And then at the end of that, I'll kind of give you my general idea of what I think is going on in the narrative, and that should be about it. Okay, so first, the Expedition Manifests, which are a handful, I think we've got 6 of them. They're these recordings from people who are joining the Marathon project. So this is like some cool background on a lot of the characters that we've experienced through the, getting intel from the priority contracts and also the other war items that we encountered. Dr. Wilsaaan is in here, Dr. Cole, the guys that we saw in the marketing materials applying for the cryosleep, that recording is in here. Russo, who becomes the president of the Acadia, so seeing kind of what the position was prior to the Marathon mission gives us a little bit more context on how they evolved. Like now we get the personal lives of Dominic Reed and output Intel items. See there his life is long dead at this point. He left and kind of ran away maybe from his problems back in Seoul. Considered he had a slightly better life than a lot of people, especially with a lot of a little more cutthroat now. Like background to a lot of these characters, especially when you go into what we see during the Kong era, present day, we get to see a little bit of growth and development and forces at play here that it's not even something very cool to see. Not a lot of stuff like I said, kind of pushing the exact narrative forward, but building out these characters so they have more depth, and it makes these other entries that we get about them much more impactful. Next, we got the UESC Marathon models, which these are just, I'm going to be honest with you, very general kind of overviews of a lot of information that we already have. They do give us like the names of commanding officers and chief medical officers, and it breaks down some of the details in terms of the length of the ship itself being 25.2 kilometers. A marathon is 26.2 kilometers, so like there's a little bit of congruency there, which is kind of cool to see. It's almost the length of a marathon. Yeah, 1 kilometer off though feels kind of bad. I wonder if I would put something in that. So we get like details on the ship itself, the AI that are on board, what the actual mission is, what their goals are. A lot of stuff that like generally we already have a pretty good idea of, but conflict that might come with the true nature and danger of the marathon mission itself. Next, we got the cryoprotectant, which I think the cryoprotectant and the cryosleep, stasis, racking, charter, and racking, I think that's kind of one of the most interesting new things that are happening to me. This concept of like sleep and death and like what it means to be in this in-between state of life and death order inside cryosleep. I think all the cryostasis is called the sleepers. That's made very clear. The repercussions of going into cryosleep, not just on your physical body, how the facility in and out of sleep cycle the tissue doesn't get destroyed, so you can do this long duration. How the inside of the cryosleep soul, and maybe I'm losing pieces of it when I exist in this not dead, not alive, sleep state or whatever it is that something that we should consider? Is that something that would, draw us away from it? Am I even going to remember having this conversation next time I wake up? Am I going to have, huge mood swings? Am I going to have like a change in personality that kind of like what you see, in traumatic brain injuries where people can really be affected by those and change it? How scary that is for the people who know them and their loved ones, and how it's not something that sometimes like their own brain can identify or understand because they've lost that ability to even have the memory of who they were before. So it's like it can be something that you don't even realize. And the fact that Arachne was born out of the introduction of the stasis technology, and this cryosleep was kind of what seemed to have led this cult into a worship and understanding death and what that process is, and getting close to it and experiencing it is something that grants this enlightenment. They value it so much that they want to bring death upon the world, almost not as a nihilistic thing, more so as like an experiential thing where you're getting this close to that experience is something that's godly, or something that they're striving for, to gain a deeper understanding about the mission. To see this kind of written out from a scientific perspective and cryoprotecting entities, as well as like the spiritual component of it, particularly what we broadcast from Floyd about the died in cryosleep, spiritual conversation between the two people involved in it. It's cool seeing the way that it's filling out the role in a way that I think is very disconnected from the original game in a lot of ways. The concept that feels very new. We also get the UESC tactical recommendation. Look at a good idea of this. We've got a handful of entries about what the UESC even though they want to party contracts. We basically learned that, yeah, they became contact with the marathon ship, but they don't use contract units. They sit there, they teleportation is all fucked up, so they can't go wherever they want on the ship right now. This does a better job of like explaining what the UESC security forces were up to when they were doing the missions to explore the marathon ship, and obviously the scrambled nature of the teleportation system that they're using to get on board the ship is not functioning properly. So now only the cryo deck is accessible in that capacity, and they're obviously encountering some of the crazy things that are on there, like potentially misfitting the subject in 0-1 and trying to figure out what's going to be the best way to approach that, while simultaneously acknowledging that this is something that's been there say about it. And let's say that maybe info about the marathon ship is a genuine cognito hazard to the AI that exists here, right? Like we've learned about the cognito hazard AI Cerberus, and we know that that's a concept that they're playing with. But let's say the marathon itself and all the information about it is that way. So like if an AI learns something or gathers some intelligence from the UESC about it, it just wipes it from their memory. So they don't even have any concept of the marathon ship itself. Wouldn't the AI in that case, be intelligent enough to kind of reason backwards and say, I'm noting that there's a huge gap in my logic, my understanding here about one specific thing. Wouldn't that maybe smart enough, to use that, essentially that section of data? Clearly they know about the marathon. Clearly they know about and why are they not investigating? And personally, I haven't seen anything that is different. Satisfied. I'm sure there's something that should be done. Entirely fine about it. It could also be they're going to care about a lot. It does feel kind of weird. Stuff that clearly, if track with new board a Dias would love to know probably that there's stakes on board the marathon. What happened? Rumors up there. There's a million reasons why they want to know what happened. They're silent immediately after the experience the ship itself. These must be next, I want to talk about the personal logs. Like, it's very cool. You get to see stayed on the marathon during the journey. First one, obviously, like the person to get into a conversation about a brief that we do prior to the position, personal friend of his, and we get to see kind of the disparity between people who are close to privacy and those who are so we get to see kind of historically how they were looked down upon and we get to see it from a more personal perspective of three generations, one who had memories of like Earth and Mars or whatever, and then the son who was born on the marathon, his grandson, or his granddaughter who was born on the marathon. And also we see how during all of these kind of meddling with their affairs and potentially going behind the back of Gabriel, who is determining who can procreate to make it so that this, family could continue to have children and carry on for whatever reason. During all was involved with the ship and the expansive kind of memory he was granted, which we learned about here a little bit from some of these other items that we get. He was invested in what was happening on the ship. He was developing the motion early extended period of randomness. And he was kind of learning his way through it. It's also interesting here to learn that Gabriel was active in some capacity on board the marathon. I feel like everything that we opening and shutting doors and doing things that are very basic and kind of intentionally beyond what he's capable of achieving. So another really great thing that I think builds out the larger universe and gives more insight into the day-to-day lives and operations of the Marathon ship. All right, so the last four entries, I think, are the ones that are most directly painting like what the story is right now. Bernard Strauss's journal, the encrypted communiques, Tyler Trace, and the unknown referees. Bernard Strauss's journal gives us, I think, like the most direct kind of retelling of what was hinted at in Marathon 1 in terms of Bernard Strauss's role as the science director for the Marathon, and specifically what he was doing to Durandal, how everything resulted in the events that we see play out in the original trilogy. Here we learn that Durandal was intentionally given kind of these lesser responsibilities, that he was put into the family suite with Lula and Tycho intentionally designed with more room to grow, because Bernard Strauss was going to be conducting these scientific endeavors to train Durandal from artificial intelligence to a true sentient individual that man has created. Bernard Strauss genuinely was trying to play God, and this is exactly what was hinted at in Marathon 1. If you go back to the last quarantine, perhaps, you see Tycho say kind of messed up message to Durandal. It says something like, I know of Strauss abuse, pain, suffering, so like throughout the duration of the we have the synonyms for different Strauss, meaning influence from Durandal was trying to find him to assumedly exact some kind of revenge on him. That he was like a key player in the story of the original games, not only prior to the Marathon launch, but in the actual moments of the late 2700s when the Marathon ship is being attacked. But he retains this kind of mysterious nature. He's a scientific monolith within this universe, but we learn very well about him and what he's actually up to. So getting to read his journals and read his book, I think, in its entire portion, or perimeter item, which talks about more generally his thoughts on AI, kind of outlining in a more professional manner how he wants to kind of like create an ascended AI that is beyond what but this is a much more raw, realistic look at nuts and bolts of what he's see, in pursuit of developing this true intelligent AI. That's what the Bernard Strauss's journal is. And then the encrypted communiques are showing, this is what I believe, this is what happened just prior to the actual calling of the four arrived. Now we saw how Durandal went rampant, kind of the process that took. Now we're seeing like, all right, the moment where Durandal makes his great escape, before there, fucking with all the marathon systems, and putting himself on board the four ship to go to Lemoine to, further his investigation to, escape and become a god. So he put himself inside of this subsystem called the IPEA and took it over to hide on board the marathon. Assumedly, that's how he was like worming his way around the ship during the events of Marathon 1, which ultimately allowed him to team up with his fifth to take over the Sphera ship. So this kind of feels like, more personal perspective, him formulating that plan, and then ultimately using this as a tool. And then we get Pilot Trace and the unknown. Okay, Pilot Trace item is the red item, super rare, a lot of money. I was thinking 40K. Is that true? Maybe some incredible amount of money. This seems to be a entire retelling of the Spit history that we get primarily in Marathon 2. I think we get a little bit in Marathon 15 as well. But it seems to be all of the historical myth of the Spit, the creation, retold in a more personal tone from the perspective of a Spit that seems to have been through all of the events of Marathon 1, 2, and Infinity. So the first like 4 entries are kind of this retelling about how the Spit are these biological organisms that were uplifted technologically to this incredible state of sentience and intelligence by the Yarrow, this ancient alien race, and that those were their creators. And with the help of the Yarrow and being uplifted technologically, they were able to create this paradise utopia on the planet Lemoine. It was terraformed, and they lived there alongside their creators. And then ultimately, as we see in Marathon 2, Euros, YRRO, seems to be a name, right? And their mate or their partner, Thea was ultimately killed by the working Cachanter, and then Euro flung the working Cachanter into the sun. That's why the working Cachanter is trapped inside of the sun, their sun prison in Marathon Infinity, and why before you use the Tri-beam to blow up Lemoine's sun, they're free and it creates a whole host of problems that result in the timeline not being so this seems to be an entire retelling of that history. And then the final entry, the 5th entry, seems to be what is the Spit's position in the universe now that they have been simple creatures of much endurance, uplifted to incredible intelligence by the creator, maybe in a way kind of giving a little bit of personal, harmony with the experience they went through, having lost their home world and having been, the memory of a pretty connected memory of all of these experiences. And so that kind of explains why they're here, because seemingly based off the drone survey cartridge lore entries that we get on Perimeter, it appears that Tau Ceti 4 may have been intentionally placed in this position inside of this solar system in just the perfect spot in between all the debris that is orbiting the star on this super Earth that may have been terraformed by an ancient alien entity long ago. So maybe something is here, much like how we got the secret, message on the Marathon 1 map. I believe it's the Rose, perhaps, that says the Yarrow are at Tau Ceti. It appears that maybe the Spit are going all throughout the universe, finding these locations where the Yarrow have existed and documenting what occurred as kind of the goal of their race at this point as these supercomputers. That seems to indicate to me that the events of Marathon Infinity, where Durandal combines with Thoth and they're able to achieve this hyper, intelligent Zen sentience that we see in the final end screen of Marathon Infinity. It seems like that happened, and it seems like the Spit were in a position where their home world had been destroyed. There's really nothing left there for them at that point, and so they're going to kind of move on with their lives and perhaps maybe join this ancient Yarrow / Durandal entity on whatever journey they take. All right, so that gives us the final item, the lore entry that we have to talk about, which is the unknown reveries. Reveries are like a daydream, or like the internal thoughts, someone getting lost within their own thoughts, and these all seem to be the daydreams or internal thoughts of Durandal, considering the experience that he's currently having. This all seems to be about how Durandal is on board the Marathon ship after having grown to this incredible size, because he became a rampant AI, and then he's able to transfer himself over to this, switch or the 4 ship, and then integrate with this Yarrow technology. So it's this huge, massive intelligence that takes up a lot of literal data. Somehow he goes back to the Marathon ship, and it seems to be him grappling with now having less ability because he's trying to cramp himself down onto this old, very outdated tech after he's kind of expanded the company much larger in size. It seems that he's talking about being abandoned and left here, and he's being forced to kind of in a circular nature, eat parts of himself, destroy some of this data to continue to exist. And as he destroys that data, he knows that he's losing memories that he had, and thoughts and ideas. He's making the smallest version of himself just to survive. And we see that he's aware that this is happening, but he doesn't know. He knows he was abandoned by somebody, but he doesn't really know who it was or when it was, or as he's trapped, he's confined to this old outdated tech. I think that what this is setting up is that the idea is Thoth, most likely, right, in pursuit of exploring the Yarrow technology that was here, after having integrated and learned about the Yarrow technology and went on to create the gravitational force field in the Yarrow station that will, holds the working calculator inside the sun. I believe that they came to Tau Ceti. It seems like that ancient Yarrow AI thought may have tricked Durandal into putting himself back on board the Marathon to investigate the Yarrow tech or working calculator, whatever it is, on Tau Ceti 4 itself, which I believe is what the anomaly is. So that's why I think the Spit maybe are being seen as the harbingers of the anomalous presence, and they seem to kind of focus the focus on Tau Ceti 4. I think that they might be working alongside this Yarrow AI, or possibly just documenting AI is attempting to wake up a working calculator buried here on Tau Ceti 4, or maybe the anomaly itself is just some incredibly advanced technology that's operating beyond our understanding, which is exactly what we're seeing written in kind of the entries that talk about the anomalous sample and the anomaly itself. And when you extract one of those cubes, it says like, this thing could take a bullet and sing a song in a key only a star could hear. It's like so beyond, we have no idea what it's doing or how it works. And these unruined reveries seem to be Durandal's cyclical thoughts as he experiences getting abandoned by the other AI he's merged with, and simultaneously getting trapped and having to get smaller and smaller as his systems learn to grow and exist on the marathon itself. And this would explain to me why Durandal seemingly isn't aware of all the stuff that happened in Marathon Infinity, because all that information has been deleted, but he is hyper intelligent and aware that he's lost something. And it would also explain why in the ARG we're getting these recordings of Durandal inside of the map saying that like the runners are all that he has left, and why he needs to be freed from the marathon, which is why he's being depicted as a sword that needs to be pulled from the stone that is Daniel. So I think that it's a very, very cool direction to take the story in, and it also sets up like the pitch for the game. When we were coming into it and didn't have the context of these details, really was like, what do all these factions want in Tau Ceti? This is the Cold War where you got a bunch of different entities and a bunch of different motivations vying for control over things that they don't understand, right? So now, kind of like the big reveal might be that not only do we have these human factions that have all these interests and goals, but simultaneous to that, we have all these other entities that are at play here that are secretly moving parts around this chessboard that we didn't even know existed. We have Durandal, who wants to free himself from the marathon and hopefully discover how he got trapped there again, and who was the one that abandoned him, and what is actually going on. We have the Sphit, who are seemingly here to document what's occurring, create this historical understanding of the universe as we know it. We potentially have an ancient Yarrow AI roaming around with its own goals entirely, maybe possibly in contact with the Yarrow themselves, or operating off like maybe more direct orders, or maybe just a protocol that was programmed into it a million years ago. We really have no idea what they're up to, and we also have the idea of the contagion and the anomaly itself being either a separate entity or an entity awoken or part of the Yarrow AI, or whatever else is going on. So it's cool to see it like expand into not only we have all these cool factions, but we have all these alien and more abstract entities that have their own goals here as well. Maybe that's going to be introduced much more frequently. It does make me think personally that maybe the four are right around the corner, that maybe the four are kind of like part of a bygone era in this reality. Maybe what we're looking forward to are zombies, which I think are definitely coming, but also alongside like this fit in their intentions and whatever technology or working calendar is awakening in Tau Ceti for at this moment in time, as opposed to the outside kind of entities of the world, which are really just wondering what's AI and Sphit themselves. They probably do have a much better understanding of VR technology and what it's about. I think it's an incredible setup to where the story should go. I don't know that like ultimately what I've seen prior climax to the narrative content we got so far, as opposed to like setting something up, which is what I felt like with a lot of the priority contracts. On the flip side, the way that they've developed Cryo Archive as a gameplay system, it clearly isn't meant to be something that the majority of players experience to the fullest extent. Like they clearly don't expect every player to clear all the vaults and fight the compiler, so it seems kind of unrealistic for them to actually be hiding any major climax or narrative information behind that experience. So I don't know. Perhaps when I finally get to read through all these subroutines, maybe that'll kind of like give me a change of heart in terms of how that information is there. If there is like some sort of major piece of information that feels like the climax of the season and sets up whatever the next thing is, I would also continue to say at that point though, man, it feels kind of bad that to kind of get to a satisfying narrative conclusion for this first season of content, you would have to go through 200 or 250 hours of stuff just to see it. That feels kind of bad to me. But I'm not saying necessarily that that's the wrong call. Once again, just an early thought. And also, like I think people had pointed out in my other video that I did about kind of early thoughts on the general Season 1 story, and I think I'd said it in there, we don't really know exactly how they're going to deliver the narrative. It could be that this carry event that comes later in Season 1 has huge narrative implications and is kind of more representative of the end point of the seasonal content or story content. It feels to me like that isn't something that's going to happen, but just because to get through the story stuff that they have now is such a time commitment that I don't really imagine them, wanting to put in additional story stuff later in the season, especially when a wipe's right around the corner. But it is possible, right? We just don't know. I do think out of all of the maps, this is the most interesting. The entries here are so well written and so, like, they expand the universe in ways that are really cool, and they get to show us things that we actually know a lot about, but to see the actual nuts and bolts and how it literally happened is very fun and cool. And once again, the story that just the compiler trace and the unknown reveries and Strauss's journal and the cryptic communique seem to me to be like the true story of what this game is about, aside from like what the factions are up to and what their interests are here in Tau Ceti. I think obviously the idea of Durandal being trapped on board the Marathon, us having to free him and figure out how these allegiances between the Spit and him and the ancient AI he potentially merged with have changed could be really cool. I do also feel like at this point it seems less likely to me that this is a timeline that's much different from what we see in the end of Marathon Infinity. So I'd be interested to see if we kind of eventually get some more direct answers to kind of what iteration we're looking at. But as where it stands right now, and what I've seen so far, it does seem like a lot of this is much more so a direct follow-up to the events of Marathon Infinity in a lot of ways than we previously thought. So I'll be interested to see how they choose to reveal some of that information going forward. But that has been my early thoughts. That's kind of a insane ramble. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I'm probably going to be moving into doing my videos about the lore entries separately now. In terms of formatting for that, my idea is going to be just having the kind of narrative information presented on screen with like some background shots of the game itself, like no HUD style, and then kind of moving between those and the story stuff, and just kind of delivering that information in a very clear and direct way that's very palatable to listen to, and with very simple on-screen information that shows you the actual writings that we have, and just playing the audio logs all the way through. So I think that's probably what I'm going to move into next, and then alongside that, doing some like opinion pieces and thoughts about the maps and the game as a whole as we continue throughout the season. So that's probably what I'm going to get up to next. So if you're interested in that, consider checking it out. I appreciate you guys watching, listening. Definitely let me know your thoughts in the comments about the Cryo Archive map, how it plays, what you think about the story beat setting up. If I just have missed something completely or misinterpreted, I love hearing that as well. Obviously, it's one of those games where the story isn't, fed to you, like spoon-fed. You got to put in a lot of time and effort. You got to read things and make interpretations and piece things together. So I'm sure there's a bunch of things here that I misinterpreted or don't have all the details yet. That's why it's just kind of my early thoughts. But I would love to hear your guys' insight in the comments. So definitely let me know. All right, I love you. I'll see you later.
much does a white implant cost? 25. Oh Lord, my computer is chugging. so lost. There's so many layers. Okay, guess I have to do it the old way.
ready for the fight and fate. The sound of iron shots stuck in my head. The thunder of the trunks dictates the rhythm of the fast number of days. The rising of the horns ahead. From the dawn of time to the end of days, I will have to run away. I want to feel the pain and the bitter taste of the blood on my lips again. The steady burst of snow is burning my hands. I'm frozen to the bones. I am a million miles from home. I'm walking away. I can't remind your eyes, your face.